welcome to another edition of UFO Video Addicts. Let me give you a quick preview of what I got coming up in this video. This is a video that shows several crafts over the ocean taken by some fishermen. Also got this video of this craft that was taken over Mexico. And this is supposedly an actual footage of a 5-meter silver dome. I mean, it's a small screen. It's hard to see, but of course, you know, the links will be in the description, so if you want to check that out. Also have this video I found on Reddit, supposedly taken in 1989, some say 1996, of 2 orbs creating crop circles. And this is just some guy asking any theories what this might actually be. Look at this red glow over the ocean, taken from a plane. Also found this interesting collage of cylinder or cigar-shaped UFOs that have been photographed over the years. And this is about this UFO Watchtower in Colorado. Some guy, I don't know if it's him that narrates it, but you know, he speaks of himself in the first person. But he bought some land up here. People were telling him that you can see, you know, there's a lot of UFO sightings. He didn't believe them, so ended up they convinced him to build this tower, and he ended up seeing some. Also have this video of Jeremy Corbell talking about that UFO whistleblower who was all over, you know, all the media. The Debrief did an article on him. A bunch of other newspapers did an article on him. And my feeling is, you know, anytime that many news station or media outlets all pick up the same story, it's a coordinated effort. It's some type of PR campaign that's going on, because, you know, again, all of these news stations, media outlets, they could choose to do any countless number of stories, and the fact that they're all doing this story on the same day tells me that it's a coordinated event, that there are people, like, you know, people with influence behind this guy. And actually, in this video here, former FBI agent reveals truth in the UFO whistleblower story. He says the same thing. He's saying that this guy is not, I mean, he's definitely, you know, revealing some information, but he's revealing information which he was allowed to release. Because even in the interview, he says, you know, that there's certain things he can't talk about, and the Department of Defense okayed him, right? They gave him permission to talk about certain things. So yeah, I agree with D'Souza here. You know, he's saying that it's not a real whistleblower, and he gives his reason why. Interesting. Let's see. I found this clip on my Twitter, and it's about this this guy talking about U.S. Army are training Arctic warriors to survive in Alaska's freezing climate. What are they preparing for? Now, again, I don't believe anything, or you know, I don't believe most of the things coming out of our government, corporate media, and you know, a lot of times they'll do things right out in the open and give you a completely different reason for why they're doing it, right? I mean, you know, you can see these guys are obviously training in the snow, but they're saying it's to survive the freezing temperature. And like, really, we're gonna like fight China or Russia or any other, you know, foreign adversary in an environment like Alaska? No, I think, and you know, in the same way they sent Admiral Byrd down to the Antarctic, you know, with that military force. Again, they claimed it was a scientific expedition, but it was actually a military expedition to confront our advanced neighbors who happen to live in the Antarctic. I think this is something similar, where they may be, you know, preparing for, you know, I don't know if it's war, because I hardly doubt if there's an advanced species that has been on this planet longer than we have, and, you know, they're flying around in anti-gravity craft that can, that you know, that defy our known physics. Yeah, I don't think we'd be able to, you know, challenge them in any conventional way. But anyways, that's that. Also found this video here I thought was kind of interesting, but it's, you know, it's a video about sounds of ancient languages. You haven't seen anything like this before, and it's all these different ancient cultures, and yeah, giving examples of, you know, what they sounded like. And this goes back to, what I've always said, that, this idea that humans evolved from, people from Africa, or that Africans migrated, outside of their countries and, moved eastward, and became white, and then became Asians, became Latinos, is complete nonsense, right? We haven't been on this planet long enough, to fork off into all of these varying races and cultures that are vastly different. So yeah, I'm of the conclusion that, we must have been brought here, and then others, arrived on our planet after, there were already, humans here. And again, I've said this before, um, right alongside primitive humans, there were also highly advanced human beings that, I am now coming to the conclusion that they've been here much longer than we have. But anyways, we got two more articles here. Got this article here about the Falcon Lake UFO encounter. And then this is an interesting article. It was actually in Portuguese. I had to do a translation. But it's about these gigantic UFOs that were seen over Brazil. And some of these crafts were like, I think he said 10 meters. Oh, this one is 1,500 meters long. More than 50 objects, some gigantic, seen in 10 Brazilian states and neighboring Uruguay. And think about that, if there are craft that are on our planet, right, that people see them on our planet, 1,500 meters long, and there are no reports of these gigantic crafts like entering into our solar system, or approaching our planet, I'm going to conclude that these crafts originate from this planet. And if they originate from this planet, are there factories? I mean, there's no doubt, we're seeing, even some of these smaller UFOs, or the UFO, like the Tic Tac UFO, that's like what, 40 feet? And there's other crafts that have been, 10 feet or 20 feet or 100, 100 foot. If they're not visiting from another planet, and these crafts are being used by our advanced neighbors, where are they being built, right? Because any type of object like that, right, has to be manufactured, has to be built, right? I mean, no one can like snap their fingers and, and make a car or a motorcycle, or, or a building or anything, right? Anything that's not created by nature has to be constructed by man, or, or constructed by some intelligent entity. So yeah, my question is, where are these crafts being built? Are there factories someplace in our oceans or in deep earth caverns that are pumping out craft, anti-gravity craft? Like here, like these crafts here, right? I mean, look, they all look the same, right? Which means someone built them. Somebody built them. Anyways, let me just play this real quick. Let's see. Let me start about here. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the setting sun. That's all this is. And this guy's, I mean, in the beginning here, he's just panning around until he comes to, to these lights. But anyways, check this out. Wow, that's really hard to watch. I wish someone could do one of those stabilized videos of this. It'd be kind of interesting. Anyways, link to that will be in the description. And I got this one here. Also, this is another one of these. The person was moving, but in the beginning, I think these are like still images. Or you know what? This, yeah, I bet you this actually was stabilized. If this is a smaller frame within a larger frame. I bet you the final footage was stabilized. But in the beginning here, you see, which I believe are still shots from the video, and then you actually see the video. But check this out.
Estoy tomando video, pa. No manches, pa, se ve de esa madre.
¿Qué es eso? No, no es un papalote. No es un papalote. Es un papalote.
Cállate. Mira, mira.
Anyway, that's as much as I want to play of that video. A link will be in the description. Let's go to this one here. Yeah, now this one is, it's just, this is it. This is all you get, but it claims to be actual footage of the 5mm silver domed UFO. It's only 1 minute, 4 seconds, so let me just try and play this whole thing. Look at that. That's kind of interesting. I don't think these are like hieroglyphics or any type of communication. I assume it must help the craft maybe create a electromagnetic field around it or something. I wonder if this is one of the crafts that that Grouch guy was talking about that he says that we have. I saw a tweet by James Fox that said, according to what some insider told him, our government has 12 craft, 6 of them that are damaged and 6 that are actually working, but he's not sure if we know how to operate them, the working ones. Anyways, that's that. This is an interesting video here from Reddit. This footage was taken in 1989, some say 1996. Video was shot by John Wabe. It depicts 2 fly orbs creating a crop circle.
Countryside, rational explanations aren't quite so easy to come by. Oliver's Castle, Wiltshire, 1989.
There's a couple of lights down there somewhere.
This controversial film appears to show strange objects hovering above a cornfield. Below, complex circle formations appear. Retired electrical engineer Colin Andrews.
Yeah, anyways, that's that. One of the first videos or documentaries that was done about crop circles, I remember there's one scene where one of the people being interviewed talks about how he flew over a field. I think it was in the morning. He had to do something. He flew over the field, and within like 30 minutes or within an hour, he flew back across that same field, and this time there was a huge crop circle, an intricately designed crop circle in the field, and he says that there's just the amount of time that or the short amount of time he flew over it and then flew back over it again on his return flight home. It would be impossible for someone or even a group of people to have created those crop circles because it was supposedly so intricate. Anyways, link to this will be in the description. This is an interesting photo here. Strange lights over the ocean taken from a plane. Guys asking any theories on this. Let's see, what are they saying in the comments? New opening to hell. Sprite, sorry I farted and I know how to rave. Men are having their periods because, yeah, they can. Fishing boats below the clouds. Phoenix is coming. Fishing boats below the clouds. I don't think fishing boats. Well, you know what? There, I know I've heard stories of fishing boats using lights in order to attract fish, but yeah, this just seems too intense to be fishing boats. But hey, you know what? I'm open to any explanation. And now this one here, this is just a collage of these different cigar-shaped crafts that have been seen throughout the years. Again, these things are all, seen on our planet, right? We're not seeing these things on Mars. We're not seeing them on Jupiter, Neptune. Now, granted, I've laid this out there before, and people go, "Oh, well, there's not a lot of people out in space, so how could they see?" Yeah, I get that, right? But we do have amateur astronomers, right? Professional astronomers pointing their telescopes out in space, and out of the thousands, I've basically put up about 1,000 videos now, and each one of these videos, has anywhere from 8 to 10 links, right? I've come across one video taken by an amateur astronomer who captured something in his telescope. And yeah, and here's another strange thing that I've come across. Most astronomers don't believe in UFOs. Like even professional astronomers, or if they do believe in them, maybe there's a stigma, attached to them too, if they claim to see UFOs. So yeah, most astronomers don't believe in UFOs. So this guy in the video, that I show, he was very skeptical, and it seemed like it took a lot of effort for him to even consider the thought that it could be a UFO, when obviously what he captured was a UFO. I mean, it was obvious to me watching it, and it had to have been obvious to him. Anyways, let's go to this one here. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. UFO Watchtower in Colorado, one of the top places in the world to see a UFO. For those interested, let me just give this a quick play here.
Created by Judy Misseline, provides you with the perfect vantage point from which to search the skies for paranormal activity or stunning sky views. Many unusual sightings have been documented in this area, and the best viewing hours are after midnight to dawn. The UFO Watchtower is located 2 miles north of Hooper, Colorado, specifically in the San Luis Valley known as the Bermuda Triangle in the west.
You see, I had no idea there was a Bermuda Triangle, in the west. And yeah, if there's a spot, right, where people can go and see UFOs on a regular basis, it has to be a flight corridor, in the same way. I don't live too far from a airport flight corridor, right? I routinely can see and hear planes landing and taking off because, right, where that happens around airports is considered a flight corridor. So, if we have designated flight corridors, why wouldn't our advanced neighbors also have flight corridors? Anyways, link will be in the description. Let's go to this one here. This is Jeremy Corbell talking about all that whistleblower reveal or disclosure that happened yesterday.
And credible.
Jeremy, how problematic is it that everything that David Grush is saying here is not firsthand knowledge, that he himself didn't actually see these non-human craft?
I think it gives weight to a lot of the people that have come forward and talked about having direct firsthand experience. That should be investigated now, because people have come forward. And by the way, it's very courageous of Mr. Grush to come forward in this manner. But there's a lot of people, whistleblowers, who have come forward to me and George Knapp and others, and they've told their accounts. So now, if it's true, this is something that can be and must be looked at by the mechanisms of government, and also the Whistleblower Protection Act that has been put forward in the National Defense Authorization Act. This is what it's for.
Let me just stop this right in and just add a comment. Look at our current Congress, right? At the people currently in government, right? Look at videos of Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia is a zombie land. Look at videos of Boston, Baltimore, Florida, Los Angeles, Chicago, right? They're all shitholes, right? And like, I live near LA. I don't live too far from Skid Row. And, in the years that I've been going up there, it's gotten worse, right? And I'm sure it's the same in every city, right? We have people in government who don't know how to deal with homelessness, who don't know how to deal with rampant drug addiction, who don't know how to deal with crime, who don't know how to deal with our borders, right? Everything is going to shit. And we're expected to believe that, again, these people who are ignoring, what you would consider important aspects of, living a life, they don't care. They do not care. And I think it's so odd that there are still people who are looking for our government to tell them the truth about this. I mean, our government, people in our government won't even tell you the truth about what's going on in your city. You ask any liberal or a Democrat, right? They'll tell you there's nothing wrong in Chicago. There's nothing wrong in Philadelphia. Those cities are run perfectly. And and a demented old man is capable of being the leader of the free world for another 4 years, right? These people don't exist in reality. So the idea that you can expect them to tell you the truth about this subject, when again, we know they've been lying about it for the past 70 years, is just ludicrous. But again, there is obviously some type of government sanctioned disclosure process happening. And from what I see, right, there are people again within government who want this information out, who are following a pre-planned itinerary, I guess you could call it, right, of releasing information on a step-by-step basis. And then there are others who still do not want this information out there, who are still denying the reality of UFOs. Or if they do acknowledge the UFOs, they say, oh, we don't have enough information. We can't make any determinations because we don't have enough information, which is nonsense. And now here, this is D'Souza, John D'Souza, being interviewed on Redacted, and he believes that that this guy isn't a real whistleblower, that this is some type of coordinated event, which is what I think. Because like I said before, when all of these different news outlets are all running the same story, it's because it's a PR event, right? Someone at a PR firm sent notices out to all these different media outlets on the same day, and they picked it up and they decided to run with it. But anyways, check this out.
Complaints is the weaponization of the FBI against civilians, which is highly illegal, improper, unethical. I mean, that is the basis for a whistleblower complaint. And all of these people have suffered enormous punishment and retaliation. And they've been fired, they've been persecuted, they've suffered extraordinary things. I'm not even clear.
Yeah. What he's talking about, are these current crop of FBI agents who did become whistleblowers, and they're talking about the two-tier justice system that we have in this country, where the FBI and the Justice Department and the entire corporate media has been weaponized against conservatives. Again, I mean, if you can't see that or admit that, then I don't know what to say. But anyone with an open mind can see that's happening. And he's saying that these whistleblowers are real whistleblowers because you can see how they're being punished, right? They're being punished for revealing this information, whereas this guy, I mean, he's got a government lawyer representing him, right? Again, and he's on all these media outlets giving interviews, right? Debrief. I mean, in my last video, the Barstool Sports also, put up tweets about this guy. So I think D'Souza's right when he says this.
Clear from David Grush's interviews, what was the is he even working anymore for the government? I can't tell because he doesn't really address this, and that goes to another point. Real whistleblowers have something called righteous rage. They have righteous rage because they've been persecuted, they've been wronged tremendously, and I don't see that with David.
So you don't buy it. You don't buy it in his video responses.
Yeah.
He's. Is it something about his interview that was standing out to you? And because he filed this complaint saying there's government suppression here, there's government suppression of these vehicles, and he's coming forward to be the person that's going to tell us all about this.
Right, but that's not an illegality. That's not an actual legitimate basis for a whistleblower complaint. The government is always allowed to not share information with the public. That's otherwise the entire national security structure couldn't function.
Now this is as much as you want to play. I'll put the link in the description, and you definitely have to go to Redacted's channel and check out the rest of this interview. But I want to also point out something that John D'Souza says later on in the interview, and it's that they are again trying to make us think that these are extraterrestrial craft, these are off-world vehicles, and John D'Souza even says it, that there's more and more evidence coming out that these crafts originate from this planet, which is the reason why, we're seeing crafts coming out of our oceans and going into our oceans, coming out of volcanoes, going into volcanoes, coming in and out of our lakes, right? We are not alone on this planet, and John D'Souza reveals that. But anyways, let me move on. I thought this was an interesting little clip I found on my Twitter, talking about how these army soldiers are preparing for, supposed war with one of our supposed enemies, which again, all of this talk of, of like China and Russia being our enemy, that's all theater. It's all theater. The reality is we get along. I think, wars are conducted for profit and to maintain population control. Because if you look back throughout history, there's never been a single day, right, since we have been writing history, where there wasn't a war going on somewhere in the planet, right? As a species, there's always a conflict somewhere where large numbers of people are being efficiently murdered, right? In the pursuit of some disagreement, right, between world leaders. But I'm not buying that anymore. I think it's all of these wars and all of this conflict. It's all part of a game being played on us by the ruling class. Anyways, check this out.
Train in how to survive and fight in the harshest of conditions. I spent several days with them in early March, mostly up a mountainside, with the temperatures swinging between just above freezing down to as low as minus 27 Fahrenheit. They were instructed in everything from snowshoeing to finding avalanche victims to learning to use their skis to ski and their ski poles to shoot. You rest the rifle on them like that. The US Army is starting almost from scratch here. Its focus on Alaska faded after the Cold War ended, and then the War on Terror began. This was the Arctic's 30 years peace, if you will. Climate change is knocking holes in that more effectively than any artillery.
Now, remember this whole idea about climate change, right? Supposedly the planet is warming up, they said, right? And you know what? I remember in the 80s, they said that we were going to go through an ice age. In fact, we were supposed to be in an ice age in 2000. And if you go back and watch, what's his name, Al Gore's movie, An Inconvenient Truth, yeah, all of those predictions he made in that movie, we're years past when, most of these cities should have been underwater by now. And this nonsense about sea level rise, it's all bullshit. You know how I know it's bullshit? Because you can go to Google Earth. You can use Google Earth and you can go to any shoreline. You remember, they have that time machine, right? Where you can go back and see images, right, all the way back to the 80s. And again, I've done this, right? And if you don't believe me, please do it yourself. Use Google Earth. Place a marker on a coastline, and then use the time tool and go back in time, and you'll see that there are no changes to any coastline. Now, granted, there are some areas, right, where some islands are disappearing, but just as islands disappear, there are other areas where there's land being created, right? The Earth is constantly in a state of flux, right? Temperature, right? Climate is always changing. Well, yeah, and another thing I want to point out, banks, right? When banks give mortgages to people, right, they're giving 15 and 30-year mortgages to people. And in order for them to give people 15 and 30-year mortgages, right, banks they employ people, or they hire companies to forecast the future, right? So if our future, right, is supposed to be where the sea levels are rising and coastlines are disappearing, would banks be giving people 15 and 30-year mortgages to buy beachfront property? No, they wouldn't, right? Why would they? Why would they give someone a 30-year mortgage on beachfront property if the banks thought that that land was going to disappear underwater? And even some of the people pushing this lie of sea level rise and climate change, like Obama. Obama bought this huge compound on Martha's Vineyard, right? A beachfront property on Martha's Vineyard. So again, ask yourself, if he thought that the sea levels were going to rise, would he buy beachfront property? Would you buy beachfront property if you believed that the sea levels were going to rise and swallow up your property? And look at all the other, again, one percenters, people who can afford beachfront property, who are pushing sea level rise and climate change. They own beachfront property. It's just ridiculous. But anyways, yeah, check that out. Okay, now this one here, I just wanted to put this one just to point out the glaring differences between all of these ancient cultures that that are no more than 5, 6, 7,000 years old. And if you go back and study what happened after the Younger Dryas event, right? We had, I think it was 2 meteor impacts, and these were extinction level events, right? After the meteors hit the Earth, right? There was a giant explosion, a bunch of debris thrown up into the air, and around a certain mile radius, everything was wiped out. And the ones that didn't die as a result of the impact, all of the debris that supposedly went into the atmosphere, covered the Earth, blocked out the sun, killed all the plant life. There's no plant life. What do the herbivores eat? There's nothing for them to eat, so then they die off. And then once they die off, right? Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense, right? And this was only 12,600, 11,800 years ago that this happened. And you got to consider, after the Younger Dryas event, right? The Earth had to have time to recover, had to have time, to right itself again, to clear the atmosphere where humans could survive, right? There's just no way, right, from the time of the Younger Dryas event to when the Earth finally healed to when these ancient cultures showed up, that isn't enough time for, right, a man to walk out of Africa and then turn into all of these different races, right? Guess what? When Africans leave Africa and move to a European country, right, they don't start spitting out white babies, right? Again, if they are with someone from their culture, but if they do, intermix with people of other races, right, their child becomes biracial. Like me, I'm biracial, all right? Yeah, I didn't turn into a new race, right? I'm a combination of my father's race and my mother's race, right? I am biracial, and you can see it in my face. Yeah, so this idea that, we have different races with, different cultures, they speak different languages, they have different lifestyles, right? And the only conclusion that I can draw is that they must have been brought here. The early primitive races were brought here, and I believe some of the other, especially the European races, like the Greeks, the Minoans, the Etruscans, the Mycenaeans, right? Just look at the way those people were living. Look at the structures that they were living in. The towns that they were building, right? Unlike anything else on Earth at that time, right? And there's no evidence that these people learned any of this when the first Greek cities were built, right? They didn't build primitive buildings. They were building structures that required advanced math, that required advanced engineering techniques, right? Where did that knowledge come from? If it didn't come from another planet, if these people didn't arrive on this planet with that knowledge. But anyways, check out this video here. Go back to here.
Amik, ubutsak, kak utia uchil, tukuyichia.
Again, yeah, look at this guy, right? Okay, look at the difference between this guy, right, and this guy, and they must have been contemporaries, right? Because while these guys are living in these in these immense structures, look at these doorways, look at the clothes that they were wearing, right? Where does this culture develop? And why is it so much different from this culture? And even these guys, right? There's vast differences in the way ancient people lived, the way they looked. Even like Japan, okay? Where did this culture develop? Where's the evidence that they started out as a primitive culture and worked their way, to learning how to construct the type of buildings they were constructing? Anyways, that's an interesting video. Link will be in the description. Definitely check it out. Now let me get to these last two articles here. This video is getting kind of long. Yeah, this is about this Falcon Lake UFO encounter. It's been hailed as Canada's best documented UFO sighting. And this weekend, Manitobans are invited to celebrate its anniversary at the provincial park where the incident is said to have happened decades ago. It was on May 20th, 1967, when industrial mechanic and amateur geologist Stefan Michalak said he was doing some prospecting at Falcon Lake in White Shell Provincial Park, about 145 kilometers east of Winnipeg. He encountered this, for all intents and purposes, this Hollywood-style flying saucer that came down, burned him, marks in the ground, radiation found, all the great stuff that you see in all the movies and TV shows, explained Chris Rutowski, a UFO researcher. It was subsequently investigated by the RCMP and the Royal Canadian Air Force. Police reports are still available online through the Library and Archives Canada, and Rutowski says he has uncovered over 300 official government documents on the incident. They couldn't explain this, Rutowski said. In fact, what makes this even better than Roswell is that we have the documentation. Yeah, so apparently this guy was burned, and yeah, I think this was, they determined it was like some kind of radiation burn. I thought there was a video with this. No. Anyways, link will be in the description. And now last is this article here. It's this, actually it was in Brazilian. I had to get it translated. But it's about this mass UFO sighting that happened over Brazil. On May 19th, 1986, on the call, official UFO night in Brazil, More than 50 objects, some gigantic, were seen in 10 Brazilian states and neighboring Uruguay. One of the objects sighted by people on the ground from aircraft and captured by Brazilian Air Force radar was approximately 1,500 meters long, being at various times accompanied by other smaller objects. This was not the only episode recorded by the FAB of colossal objects in Brazilian airspace. 10 days later, on May 29, 1986, another object, even bigger, even larger, was seen by people present at the edge of the city of Santos. This object was captured by radar from CIN-DACTA and APP-SP, and its size was estimated to be 11 kilometers long. 11 kilometers, I think that's like 7 miles long. According to statements by flight controllers in service that night, there were several other smaller objects in different parts of the southeast. At one point, these objects went toward this larger object on the high seas, which possibly collected them, disappearing at high speed towards the sky. Years later, on April 26, 2003, around 3 a.m., people in the southern region of Campinas observed a gigantic flying object, circular in shape and reddish in color, crossing over the region, heading towards the city of Sao Paulo. This object would be approximately 1,500 meters long and moved at high speed. The Brazilian Air Force recorded the fact in a standard UFO sighting resignation form. The official documentation is now publicly available on the National Archives website and on the Phenomenon portal. Less than a year later, on March 1st, 2004, another case occurred involving colossal objects. At around 6:15 a.m., an object estimated at 3,700 meters was observed at 46 kilometers south of the city of Goiânia. I don't even know how to say that. Anyways, let me see. Oh, yeah, here's the video. Let me see if they say anything about this in the video.
Brasil, possivelmente
Yeah, it's all
em
gonna
São
be in
José
Portuguese.
na noite de vitória brasileira. E naquela ocasião havia vários objetos espalhados sobre os estados de São Paulo e Rio de Janeiro e que também estavam sendo captados pelo
So
objeto.
anyways, yeah,
Então
here's
foi
all the
objeto.
documentation. Let me just turn it off real quick. Yeah, and here's an example of the size of this thing. Let me just move this out of the way. Yeah, look at the size of this plane. Look at the supposed size of this object here. Now, again, I ask this question again. If there are objects this big flying around in our skies and they're coming from another planet, why aren't amateur astronomers or even professional astronomers detecting these craft? Right? I mean, I'm sure, they must be able to cloak themselves or hide themselves, whenever necessary from us seeing them. But, yeah, based on the number of reports that we're getting, right? I mean, if these are all visitors, why aren't we seeing them entering into our solar system, entering into our atmosphere? Now, no doubt, there's a ton of videos taken by NASA and our satellites of smaller craft, right? Exiting our or exiting low Earth orbit and returning from low Earth orbit and, and heading back towards our oceans or heading back towards Earth. Which tells me that, the reason why they leave and they come back is because they live here. And I've used this analogy before, right? If you see your neighbors coming in and out of their homes on a daily basis, would you assume they're visiting, or would you conclude they live there? Which is why, you see them coming in and out of their homes on a daily basis. It's the same thing, right? People are seeing these crafts coming in and out of our oceans on a daily basis. So you would have to conclude that the reason why we see them coming in and out of our oceans, our lakes, our volcanoes, and other areas where you can see them going into caves and things like that. And I've even seen video. I mean, I don't know if the video is real, but supposedly there are videos out there of craft flying into mountainsides, flying into rock and just disappearing behind the rock. But anyways, this video is getting a little too long. I'm going to end it here. Please, I've said this before, YouTube is not helping me promote my channel in any way. The only way that this information is going to get out there is if you people like the video, leave a comment, share the video, and more importantly, please subscribe, because I really want to get to 1,000 subs so I can attempt to get monetized. At this point, I really don't think it's going to happen, but I'd like to at least give it a shot. So yeah, anyways, if you can, please subscribe. That's going to be it for this video. If you like things like this, come back for more.